Greatest sport ever. The greatest sport ever. Because it is a boring Thursday in May. And Ari Wasserman, we just got a press conference for the ages from Jimbo Fisher following a Q&A for the ages with Nick Saban last night.
Yeah, you thought we were going to talk about kickoff times today.
I thought we were going to talk about initial counters and divisions. No, we get red meat. We get the greatest college football press conference of all time. Perhaps I am being slightly, I don't know.
No, I had the same thought, Andy. I can't think of a press conference at any sport that comes to the top of my head where the one coach overtly criticized and said the things about their counterpart the way that Jimbo Fisher said today.
I can't either. So I'm thinking Les Miles' damn strong football team, like that was up there because that was like the day of the SEC championship game. But I don't know.
There have been some great outbursts.
Yes.
But outbursts don't equate to like seething anger. Because I think you could see Jimbo Fisher was stewing all night.
You could hear it.
Yeah.
He was furious. All right, we'll let Jimbo Fisher take the mic for the moment. We've got Nick Saban too, but let's start with Jimbo Fisher from a few minutes ago, addressing what Nick Saban said on Wednesday night, which was Nick Saban's talking at an event in Birmingham, and he says A&M bought their entire recruiting class, but Alabama did not. No, we didn't buy a single player. Jimbo Fisher responded on Thursday.
Coach, like to respond to some comments made last night in Alabama?
Yes, I would. First of all, I'll say it's a shame that we have to do this. It's really despicable. It's despicable that somebody can say things about somebody and an organization. More importantly, 17-year-old kids. You're taking shots at 17-year-old kids and their families. And they broke state laws. They're all money. We bought every player on this group. We never bought anybody. No rules were broken. Nothing was done wrong. It was all in the way we do things, the ethics in which we do things. And these families, it's despicable that a reputable head coach could come out and say this when he doesn't get his way or things don't go his way.
That was pretty strong. But it got better, worse, whatever you want to call it. Here's more Jimbo.
I promise you this. There are no violations. There are nothing wrong. It's the second time we've had to do this with grown men who don't get their way and want to pout, throw a fit, and act up. Just go ask all the people who work for him. You'll know exactly what he's about. I always said this. My dad always told me this. When people show you who they are, believe them. He's showing you who he is.
Wow. Wait. I got another one. Hold on, Ari. One more.
What's funny, in that talk, right before he said that about us, wasn't he soliciting funds from the crowd? It's amazing.
Left Rob.
When you walk on water, I guess it don't matter.
Poor Alan Cannon trying to manage this press conference. It was off the rails from the moment it began.
You know, when they give you 40 minutes time of the announcement between when they said they were going to have a press conference and then the press conference happened, you know that things are about to get real fiery. And you call that press conference, you know, if you're a person in the information department knowing what you're calling. You know, like I don't think that was. I mean, everybody knew that he was going to be fiery. I don't know if people thought he was going to be that fiery.
Ari, he slept on this.
I know.
Like, imagine what it was last night when he heard what Nick Saban said.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like, the volcano of profanity that probably came out of Jimbo Fisher's mouth. By the way, here's what Nick Saban said. So thanks to Wesley Seiner at AL.com for posting this video. Nick Saban at the World Games in Birmingham. This is the part of a 7-minute answer on NIL that obviously set Jimbo Fisher off, and you would understand why.
But I know the consequence is going to be difficult for the people who are spending tons of money to get players. And you've read about them. You know who they are. I mean, we were second in recruiting last year. A&M was first. A&M bought every player on their team, made a deal for name, image, and likeness. All right, we didn't buy one player. All right, but I don't know if we're going to be able to sustain that in the future because more and more people are doing it.
Poor Nate Oates, the basketball coach from Alabama, sitting next to Nick Saban, like, what have I walked into?
Yeah, it was like the Kanye West thing with Michael Myers.
Mike Myers.
You know that face of like, that gulp. Yeah, it's so funny too because I don't like. Let me ask you this, Andy, because Jimbo Fisher said in his press conference, and I can't remember if it was one of the clips you played for people, but he said that they got accused of cheating. Right. Are they being accused of cheating?
Yes, they are
because of the inducement,
breaking NCAA rules regarding inducements to players,
which is unenforceable and impossible to prove, and should just not even be a rule to begin with.
And oh, by the way, guess who has been accused by many, many people over the years of inducing people to sign with his school?
I mean, everybody's accused
at Alabama or LSU.
Every single coach that's ever landed a commitment from a 5-star player has been accused of it. So
every single one,
and it's not. I think that it's just an interesting dynamic right now because that rule, the inducement rule, cannot. I don't know how that can be enforceable or even exist in a market where people are able to be paid.
Only if someone is dumb enough to put in a contract
to come here in writing.
Don't go to that school. That's the only way.
You can't prove what somebody's motivation for doing anything is, as long as it exists. I mean, of course. I mean, I just don't know if there's much of a difference between come to Alabama and beat Bryce Young, win a Heisman Trophy, and get a bunch of money in NIL, and here's a bunch of money up front. Both are inducements to go make money. It just comes in a different form. So it just the whole thing about NIL, and we joked about this on the podcast when we were together in Scottsdale, is that everybody just throws numbers around and everybody believes everything, right?
Including Nick Saban.
If Nick Saban just says that, but we don't even know if that's even true. Now there's a pretty big elephant in the room, and that's Texas A&M has been a solid recruiting program for many years, and then all of a sudden, coincidentally, the year they signed the best class in the history of recruiting is the year that NIL got passed. Okay, so I understand that there's probably something to that, but
I have no doubt there's something to that.
But if Nick Saban's position, though, I don't know that I would just toss things out there into the atmosphere.
You're Alabama. Who cares?
Yeah. It's also if you're what's that? The lion and the sheep. The lion and the sheep saying a lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep. And it's like Nick Saban's already at the epitome of the sport, and I'm not sure has to prove anything else. Now, I wrote a column on Thursday, and I'm sure yours is going to get posted here pretty soon, but mine was basically just saying that I understand why Nick Saban is upset and doesn't like the NIL inducements, because everything that he built at Alabama organically or through the boosters, however you want to put it, everybody's always going to accuse everybody of paying people, but organically made Alabama's scholarship offer inherently value.
He took advantage of the rules that were in place to create the biggest advantage for himself. The rules have changed, and now he doesn't have that advantage.
Because what's the only way that you can outdo an Alabama scholarship? It's writing a check.
Well, but wait, there's one other thing. There's a name we haven't mentioned in all this. It's another former Saban coordinator that I think plays a big role in this, even though he hasn't been named and isn't in the middle of this fight. Kirby Smart taking Nick Saban's infrastructure to Georgia, the place Nick Saban always said was the best job in college football, and then doing exactly what Nick Saban did. And now they've reached where Alabama is. They won the national title. They beat Alabama for the national title. Those are players that would have gone to Alabama. I mean, here's what Nick Saban is looking at, really. Look at the 17 recruiting class at Alabama. Maybe the best recruiting class in the history of college football. Tua, Mac Jones, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle. Or no, not Jalen Waddle. Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy. It's just a massive class of stars. Guys who are going on to first-round draft picks. Well, when did that class start getting recruited? 2015? When Kirby
Probably
Smart was
14.
When Kirby Smart was still the DC at Georgia or at Alabama?
Yeah.
and then Kirby Smart goes to Alabama, or excuse me, goes to Georgia from Alabama. Now, let's start looking at Georgia classes starting in 2018 when he's had a couple of years. Oh, would you look at that? The Georgia classes look just like the Alabama classes. So those are players that would have gone to Alabama. And now you've got Texas A&M taking more players who would have gone to Alabama. And what has Alabama's advantage been all along?
Having the best players.
We have one guy gets hurt. Okay. One guy goes early to the draft. Okay, that's fine. We've got somebody to replace him who might even be better. But guess what? When you can't sign every single guy you want, suddenly you get thin at places.
Yeah. There's no question about it. But before the NIL era, it would have taken a Kirby Smart like figure to go to the most advantageous recruiting program in America to duplicate that.
Right. It was a perfect storm.
So like, and that happens. There's still 100 top 100 players in Alabama, even through the NIL era, signed 10 or more of those 100 top 100 players in each of the last 4 classes. I think like their recruiting is insane. And the whole point of where you're coming from, if you're Nick Saban, is that organically speaking, I created a system at Alabama that has created an inherent value that doesn't come from dollars and cents when it comes to getting that scholarship offer. How many programs in America can you say have that advantage of just playing here alone is worth over $100,000? Maybe 3 or 4, probably.
Yeah, it's at this point, it's Alabama, it's Ohio State, it's Georgia,
and maybe Clemson.
Yeah, maybe
other than
Oklahoma as a skill player under Lincoln Riley, but we'll see.
And how many years of coaching did it take Nick Saban to become the greatest of all time? You know, this is his life's work. The manifestation of his life's work is creating this Alabama program to being what it is. So if you can just reverse years and years and years of national championship runs and NFL draft picks, and Bill Landis wrote a great story last week about how Alabama has converted 5-star prospects into high-end draft picks better than any other program in the country, including Ohio State and Georgia. It's not close. And you reverse that in a single year by writing checks, I can understand why somebody in his position would be upset. That said, they're still recruiting at a high level, and I think they will continue to recruit at a high level because being Bryce Young or selling the potential of being Bryce Young, I think is inherently more valuable than writing somebody a check to go somewhere worse to play for somebody worse.
Well, I will go one further, but first let's listen to Nick Saban from Wednesday night, because this comment dovetails into what we're talking about here. So let's hear a little more from Nick Saban. This is from Wesley Steiner at AL.com.
And my theory on that is everything that we've done in college athletics has always been equal. Your scholarship is equal. They get equal Alston money. They get equal cost of attendance. They get equal academic support. They get equal medical attention. Everything has always been equal. So I told our players, I said, we're going to have a collective, but everybody's going to get the same amount of opportunity from that collective. Now, you can go earn however much you want. And I tell the recruits the same thing, because our job is not to buy you to come to school here. And I don't know how you manage your locker room, and I don't know if this is a sustainable model, because one of you folks are going to give some player that comes to our school a bunch of money to come to our school. And then you're going to come to the game in full strut, thinking, I'm going to tell everybody I got that guy to come to Alabama. And then he's not going to play, and he's going to transfer, and you're going to say, I'm never going to do this again. All right, so I don't know how it works. I don't know how you sustain a model like that.
So that's Nick Saban talking about really competing business models in the new world. And I would argue that he's got a business model that will work better than the one he is complaining about. Because who are the types of players that you would rather have? The ones who will just take the biggest bag they can get, or the ones who see the bigger picture and realize there might be more money at the end of the rainbow if they go to a place like Alabama, even if the upfront is not as much. And let's not be naive here. There is upfront. Ajayi Hall, who just was suspended at Alabama and left for Texas, he had a crystal deal. Go look at his Instagram. I don't know if he had to eat all that stuff, but like he had deals. Like they all. There's a reason Nick Saban. Here's
I hope he
one
had
more,
to eat that stuff.
well, there was a night on Bourbon Street, that Canal Street, Bourbon Street, Crystal. I might have ordered that much stuff, and I wasn't right for a week afterwards. So I hope he's okay. But here's another Saban clip from Wednesday night. This is kind of, again, he always shoehorns a recruiting pitch into these complaints. So let's hear this one.
And our players last year created $3 million worth of opportunity for themselves by doing it the right way. And I have no problem with that. And nobody had a problem on our team with that because the guys that got the money earned it.
So there's money at Alabama is what he's trying to tell everybody.
Money at Alabama. Yeah, yeah.
There's always money in the banana stand.
But I don't understand. Like, the thing that kind of annoys me is this concept of the right way. It's just always this like vague. No, the right way is being paid what you're worth. And
yes.
and I understand that people might say, would you rather have a roster full of Alabamas who want to come there and work and then worry about getting paid later? Or do you want to create a roster full of people who took the biggest bag? And it's like, I hate painting people who take the biggest bag in a bad light because we all take the biggest bag.
Not true. We always don't. We don't always. When I came to the Athletic, I took less money because the place I was at before had gotten bought by somebody, and I was afraid of what was going to happen.
That's true. Yeah.
So
everybody's
in the world,
world, though, the way that the financial sector works is that people have jobs, and most times out of not either get offered jobs from other places and use that as a way to get a raise at their current place, or they leave their job to take a bigger job with more money involved.
And there's nothing wrong with it for you and your line of work, dear listener, and there's nothing wrong with it for a football player.
And what you did at the Athletic is admirable. When I came to the Athletic,
it wasn't admirable. It was the smartest move I could make at the time.
No, I know, but it's an admirable thing to think long term. And when I came to the Athletic, I was the first college football employee at the Athletic, and nobody had ever heard of it before. My first seat was was at Indiana Stadium behind a pole. You know, those like bad. And I was like, okay, well, we're going to work our way up here. And it worked. It turned out to be a good thing. But I don't like the idea, and the point I was trying to make is that we are painting people who take money in a bad light, like they're bad people.
Because that's what this sport has always done. Look,
I know.
Go back and look at the coverage of AJ Green getting suspended for signing a jersey for an agent runner. It was like he committed murder. Like, it's ridiculous.
So, but like, that's the thing. It's like, I would be more than fine. Like, let's just say Texas A&M paid everybody for the sake of just playing along with the game. A&M paid everybody $1 million. I'd be fine trying to figure it out how to make it work with that class that they just brought in. Like, it's not like they're like, oh, well, A&M's going to suck now because they just signed a bunch of players that don't have the right attitude and are doing it the wrong way. So, like, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't prescribe to that.
And that's the thing. If you don't want those, if that's not the type of player you want, then why would you be mad if you're Nick Saban? Like, obviously there's some people he wanted that he didn't get.
Because the only way to neutralize what he created is to pay somebody more money than they think is worth of the value of the scholarship to Alabama, which in my opinion should be anywhere between $500,000 and $1 million, because that's how much money, the end of the rainbow has for you at Alabama if you go there and
you're
actually do things
kind of like a median Alabama signee in this era.
Yes. So your kid turns out to be a 5-star quarterback, and Alabama and Saban want him this year. How much money would another program have to pay your family and your kid for him not to take the Alabama scholarship?
It would have to be so much. And
that right there is what he built in his entire life's existence. And
but
that is what
what's he worried about?
Because it's not always going to be the answer. Like, people aren't always going to think about it and view it that way. Going to play for Alabama is an investment. Smart people invest. Not everybody invests. It's like that game we played in Scottsdale. Remember that game when we had a few beers at the hotel and I asked everybody, if I gave you $100,000 in cash right now, you could take it tax-free, go spend it however you want to spend it. Or I took a coin flip and said, if it lands on heads, I'll give you $1 million. But if it lands on tails, you get nothing. Most people at the summit that was arguing with me said they would take the money.
Yeah, the 100,000. Yeah,
Which
I was like, no, flip that coin, baby.
Flip the coin.
I like my chances
100 times out of 100 times you flip the coin, but that's not the way that people think. People want bird in the hand. But the smart people who understand what the opportunity is long-term to play at Alabama see the vision. And it's not like long-term is that big of a deal. Once you get to Alabama, you can go do your Crystal ads. You're still going to get some money. Like, it's not like you just don't get paid $1 until you're 23 years
Bryce
old.
Young's getting a lot of money.
I think Bryce Young was at the hotel that I got married at the day I was married in Laguna Beach. He seemed to be doing okay.
Yeah.
You know, and like we had a group rate for the wedding, but it was a very expensive hotel to be staying in. It was probably $1,000 a night that night. And he was walking to his room with his NIL money strapped over to the back of his backpack. So like it's working out for you at Alabama. So like the thing I don't understand more than anything, Andy, about this whole situation is if I were Nick Saban, I would be frustrated by my infrastructure that I created organically being jeopardized by money. But I also would feel good about who I am and what I've accomplished enough to not say the things that he said. So, and I'm happy he did. It makes for a great podcast. It makes for a great discussion. But Nick Saban is like the Illuminati level of great. So, like, I just don't even know why he would be concerned himself with Texas A&M.
Well, it's entertaining for us though. Justin Tate on YouTube, by the way, Saban is sliced bread. Maybe he is. Maybe it was Nick Saban who posted as sliced bread on that Oklahoma message board and said that was the initial person who threw out the $30 million figure for the Texas A&M recruiting class, which makes no sense whatsoever, but threw it out. Bro Bible aggregated it. A vice president at Notre Dame believed it. It was incredible. I thought that was going to be the most magical time of all this.
Yeah. Well, at least Joey Freshwater is still kind of part of this too, a little bit.
Ari, I'm sitting here refreshing Deion Sanders' Twitter page. Deion Sanders caught a stray last night too.
Did you see what Travis Hunter tweeted?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Travis Hunter is the cornerback who went to Jackson State that Nick Saban talked about. Here's Nick Saban talking about this, by the way. I've never read this newspaper that Nick Saban is talking about. I don't believe he's read this in the newspaper either because I don't think it's been in any newspaper. But this is from AL.com again.
We have a rule right now that says you cannot use name, image, and likeness to entice a player to come to your school. Hell, read about it in the paper. I mean, Jackson State paid a guy $1 million last year that was a really good Division I player to come to the school. It was in the paper, and they bragged about it. Nobody did anything about it. I mean, these guys at Miami that are going to play basketball there for $400,000, it's in the newspaper. The guy tells you how he's doing it. So, but the NCAA can't enforce their rules because it's not against the law. And that's an issue. That's a problem. And unless we get something that protects them from litigation, I don't know what we're going to do about it.
So just straight up accusing Deion. Now, everybody did that when Travis Hunter decided to flip from Florida State to Jackson State. But here's the thing. Travis Hunter was going to get money at Florida State too.
Yeah.
Like, why does it bother you so much more that it's this school?
Yeah. It is an interesting paradox because I feel like Nick Saban was saying things that were untrue as if he read it on Twitter and thought that they were, which is exactly what 100%, we were making.
Because that was never reported. Yes, lots of people on Twitter said, "Oh, they must be paying Travis Hunter." Well, Travis Hunter tweeted something today. That was fun.
Read it.
He said, "Why? And if I'm making $1 million, why is my mom in a 3-bedroom house with 5 kids still?" Could it be that he wanted to be the number 1 recruit who went to an HBCU, that meant something to him? And that maybe he's also getting some deals? Like, he was going to get deals anywhere he went. That's the part that's interesting to me is, and this is consistent throughout the history of big-time college football. There are the schools that are supposed to get these players, and then there are the ones that are not. And if a school that is not supposed to get these players gets them, they must be cheating. Well, here's the deal. The way the rules are written now and the judicial issues before the NCAA, where they just took a 9-0 beat down in the Supreme Court, and the state laws for NIL being what they are, there are no rules. The NCAA can say all at once that you can't induce somebody with NIL money. They can enforce it. So there are no rules. Money is available to everyone at every school. The schools don't even have to be particularly creative about it. So this whole thing of, oh, this guy went to Ole Miss, or this guy went to Arkansas, or this guy went to Tennessee, so they must be cheating because he didn't go to Alabama. Like, that's over.
The word cheating should just be done. I'm done with the word cheating.
It's right. You are paying someone money for being good at football. There's nothing morally wrong with that. And guess what? What have we been complaining about with this sport for the last 20 years? The same 4 schools win the national title. Nobody but these 4 schools can compete for the national title. Well, now all of a sudden players are going to places like Jackson State. And we're complaining about that too?
Yeah, if
like
A&M does this 3 more times, A&M does this 3 more times, they'll be competing for national championships too.
Oh, and that would be a different school competing for a national championship, which would be the thing people claimed that they wanted. Or is it just you want your school to be able to do it and nobody else?
Yeah.
Like if you're a Penn State fan, you want Penn State to be able to compete for national title, but no other new people. Like, no. This system might allow some more schools to do it. Now, I think it's going to completely eliminate other schools, but they were schools that never really had a chance to win the national title anyway. But the group of schools that is capable of competing for the national title, let's say this pattern keeps up for 5 or 10 more years, will be larger.
What was your actual, like last night, I was very tired and I was falling asleep when this happened. But what was your initial thought about Nick Saban when you read what he saw or saw what he said?
So I watched the entire 7-minute answer because I wanted to put it all in context. And my thought was what it usually is with Nick Saban at first. This is calculated. What's his end game here? And that's what I kept trying to figure out. What's his end game? Because usually when he says stuff like this, he's sort of plinking at the barrier to say, where's the weak spot here? What can I find to take advantage of so that I can do this better than everybody else? It's sort of the same thing with the up-tempo offenses when he says, is this what we want football to be? It wasn't so much a complaint as a legitimate, I'm just asking here. Because if you say yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this with better players, and you're going to see what happens. And he did. And it worked. Three national titles since that happened, since that change was made for him. And so he's been the most adaptable head coach in America. And that has been his greatest superpower. So my thought initially was, what is his end game here? He's got to be trying to figure something out so that he can do this better than anybody else. But the more I thought about it, and especially after Jimbo Fisher went scorched earth on Thursday, I think you're right. I think you have it right now. He has built this colossus where he had the biggest advantage. He talked about, well, we want everything to be equal in college football. No, your entire state of being was built on Alabama being better at all of this other stuff than everybody else. Yes, you only got a scholarship just like everybody else, but Alabama will train you better for the NFL. Alabama will spend more on a nutritionist. Alabama will spend more on food. Alabama will hire better medical personnel. Alabama will hire better strength personnel. Alabama will have more people coaching you. Like all of those things. He created a system where he could tell recruits Alabama is better this way and this way and this way.
And that's worth more than an NIL deal to me.
It still is. And that's the thing. What is it like? If neither of us is a lawyer, but the whole point of the Sherman Antitrust Act is to keep competitors from colluding to price fix. That's the whole point. So in this case, you had competitors colluding to price fix a labor market. So what you want is for them to compete in different ways and try to find the most efficient way to do the thing they're trying to do. So what's interesting to me is now you have competing philosophies because Nick Saban, and maybe this was what he was trying to feel out. Do you think I should just go in and buy these guys, or should I keep doing it the way I'm doing it?
Yeah. I think there's a happy medium there. I don't think that it has, like, Alabama's ever going to be in a position where it needs to offer $8 million for a quarterback to go play there. And I don't know if the sport in general is going to be at a place in 4 or 5 years where people are making $8 million to come there. I think this is new. I think it's going off the rails. The fact that transfer rules and NIL got introduced in the same summer was definitely bound to create some turbulence. But I do think that one
transfer rule piece of this is even more interesting.
Because it makes it different about how much money you want to invest if somebody can leave.
It changes it exponentially, and creates a new avenue, a new world of tampering. There's always tampering before, but tampering's different now because sometimes the tampering doesn't necessarily come from another school. It comes from the kid's agent telling him, "Hey, I can get you this here and this here and this here," and the kid believing that, going into the portal and then finding out, "Oh crap, I can't get this anywhere." Now I'm out at the old place.
Andy, if there was what would be a fun name for an athletic competitor?
Athletic supporter.
Athleticsupporter.com.
Yes.
That's a terrible name. How about the armchair quarterback?
I like it. Okay.
And it's a huge conglomerate of national and local writers for every sport everywhere. And there was a college football columnist named Smandy Smaples.
Okay.
And Smandy Staples does everything that you do and equally as good or a little bit worse because you're amazing. And you found out that Smandy Staples makes 3 times as much money as you.
Yep.
What would you do?
I would try to get the same amount of money. If all things are equal, then I want the same amount of money.
So the armchairquarterback.com isn't tampering.
No.
You're just a human being with a brain who hears what he's worth and wants to rectify that he's being underpaid.
Again, this is all fine. The decades spent villainizing people in college football for giving players money or for players taking money, people are going to have to rewire their brains to understand that just isn't bad. Like, I've been trying to tell you guys for years, there's nothing morally wrong with giving someone money for being good at football or singing or golf or acting. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
So in the beginning of the NIL era, last July, a year ago, I remember you vividly. I vividly remember you saying on the podcast that you believed that things would go off the rails early and that the market would set itself and then more rational spending habits would prevail once people saw whether it worked or not. A year into this now, as we sit here on May 19th, almost a year, do you believe that we are going to see a regression of the money coming out, or do you think that it's going to be the wild, wild west, money flying everywhere? It's only going to get worse?
I think the way money flows will change over the years. I think it will flow less to recruits and more to proven transfers coming up from a what was considered a lower level school to a higher level school, because they're a proven commodity. And then the deals that will have to be made to keep good players at their schools are going to have to be big, which is fine, because that, like, the Nick Sabans of the world cannot complain about that, because that's just part of the deal. They've proven themselves in college. You're not inducing them to stay. You're inducing them to stay at your school, I guess, but you're just offering them money. You're offering them deals because they have proven their worth as a college football player. Like,
if you say the word NIL, if you say the word NIL in a sales pitch, you're inducing them from NIL. That's it. In my opinion.
Is that the case? So if
you want to come to Alabama and you can be Bryce Young one day, look how much money Bryce Young is making.
That's not an inducement.
To me, it is.
That is information.
I understand.
That you feel like that
if that person decides that they want to be like Bryce Young and make as much money as them, they are choosing Alabama because of their financial potential there. So, and that's what I'm making a point that the inducement rule is stupid.
Swarm Nick Saban now?
No, but I'm just saying, like, there's not much difference between here's a duffel bag with 80 grand in it and here's how much Bryce Young makes. One's bird of the hand and one's potential, but it's both an inducement to come play for financial reasons.
Right. And that's the thing. What these two are complaining about, the Nick Saban and the Jimbo Fisher, it's purely semantics. You're both using money to induce players to come to your
Also,
school.
the thing I don't understand is like Jimbo Fisher gets out there. This is the second time he's done this, or even the third time, saying we didn't pay a single player and like was denying it. Why are you denying it? Who gives a crap?
Exactly.
Like why? Like I'd be like, yeah, we did. We did it better than you. What are you going to do about it, big guy? We got more money than you.
That was my initial reaction, and I asked some people, and part of it was because I said when the $30 million thing came out, why not just go, yep, we had $30 million.
Call
next
us.
Year's
Our
gonna
DMs
be
are
$60
open.
million.
Our DMs are open.
Yeah. But I talked to some people there, and the explanation made sense. There isn't $30 million. And if people come in expecting there to be $30 million and there's not, they're going to get kind of pissed off.
And I wonder if the legend makes you more attractive than it being out there too.
True. I think
I don't know if there's like a certain like thought process. It's just like what the thing that is the most frustrating thing to me about NIL is there is no on paper fact about who got paid what or who was promised what. If you had to guess, like what did A&M actually do? I would be very interested in knowing the answer to that question and not like fairyland Twitter statements.
Here's what I've been told by people involved in that process. Players, recruits were shown deals that current players have.
Okay.
That's it. That's what I was. And then the obvious, as you said, the obvious next logical step is the recruit goes, oh, so I can get that. And
which is the same exact thing as saying Bryce Young made $1 million in a news conference.
Pretty much.
Name the difference.
This is the difference in I would say in Nick Saban's mind, but not really in the mind of anybody else. Yeah. So let's say that player signs with Texas A&M. Then the contract gets worked up to buy their NIL rights. The collective buys the NIL rights, which is it's essentially a marketing guarantee. Like you would normally see this when a player finishes college, is about to go to the NFL. Their marketing agent will give them what's called a marketing guarantee, which is I'm giving you this much up front. You're going to earn it back. And then once you've earned it all back and paid me back, then you're just making money against the draw. And you take 90%, I take 10%, that sort of thing. And that's what they're doing. They're buying the players' NIL rights whole. But they haven't taken a snap yet. So they haven't proven that they're worth any of this money.
It's all semantics.
I know it's all semantics, but that's why I'm saying a Nick Saban will go, well, that player clearly isn't worth as much as Will Anderson because Will Anderson was the best player in the country last year, and this guy's never taken a snap, and you're still giving him a 6-figure deal. Well, that's what they chose to do.
And let them do it.
They chose to spend
and if it doesn't work out, you're going to have a lot of people who lost a lot of money, and it's going to be hilarious.
Well, and that's exactly right. That Nick Saban clip we played earlier, I'll play it again because I think this is important. So the last part of this clip, listen close.
And my theory on that is everything that we've done in college athletics has always been equal. Your scholarship is equal. They get equal Alston money. They get equal cost of attendance. They get equal academic support. They get equal medical attention. Everything has always been equal. So I told our players, I said, we're going to have a collective, but everybody's going to get the same amount of opportunity from that collective. Now, you can go earn however much you want. And I tell the recruits the same thing, because our job is not to buy you to come to school here. And I don't know how you manage your locker room, and I don't know if this is a sustainable model, because one of you folks are going to give some player that comes to our school a bunch of money to come to our school. And then you're going to come to the game in full strut, thinking, I'm going to tell everybody I got that guy to come to Alabama. And then he's not going to play, and he's going to transfer, and you're going to say, I'm never going to do this again. All right, so I don't know how it works. I don't know how you sustain a model like that.
But you just answered your own question, Nick Saban.
It's not sustainable.
How it works is the dumb booster who wasted the money on the guy who transferred doesn't do that again.
That's right.
That's how that works.
I just let it roll. I think
Yeah.
and that's the entire point of the column that I wrote is that I understand why Nick Saban would be upset, but NIL won't be able to match what he has going for him right now.
No, and it would take years for anybody. Now, here's the thing with Texas A&M or with Georgia or with Miami or with Oregon or Tennessee. Those programs all have lots of money. Well, Miami recently has come into lots of money. Everybody else has had lots of money. If they get slightly better, they will probably be putting guys in the NFL at a pretty good clip. I mean, A&M had a first rounder this year in Kenyon Green. So it's not like they're not already producing draft picks. Some of these programs, and Georgia, I mean, just set a record with how many they produce. So that may be the other part of what Nick Saban is scared of, is that advantage may fall away a little bit too. I don't think it doesn't go away completely, obviously, because Alabama's still on a crazy run. But
if you bring more 5-star prospects into your program, you have a higher likelihood of having first-round draft picks exit your program.
yes.
But the story that Bill Landis did last week was really eye-opening because there are a lot of programs that have signed a ton of 5-star prospects the last 10 years who have been terrible at turning them into draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, to me, the signing of the draft pick is a huge hurdle, and it's something I write about and yell about constantly. But the gift of maintaining that 5-star status into making them a first-round pick, because Nick Saban doesn't just have the most draft picks from 5-star prospects; he has the highest average draft positioning too by multiple rounds.
That is the bigger thing. That's their best recruiting tool.
Yeah, and it's like you're not just like, oh, you might get picked in the 5th round and then not even reach a second contract. This is like you are going to sign a signing bonus that makes the $8 million man shriek in his shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly, like, to me, taking $8 million in the hand is a lot of money, and I understand that. But the investment piece of what you're getting at Alabama is so much more valuable. But like you said too, if Texas A&M is the $80 million class every year, or whatever fake number you want to throw out there and have people believe, that in 5 years, if they do it consecutively, their team is going to rise up and be better. Then there'll be a sexier team for recruits going in. They'll be more recognizable. They'll have more first-round draft picks, and thus they'll be a more attractive place.
Well, and again, the unspoken guy, the guy we haven't heard from in all this, who's just one of our YouTube commenters was explaining that he's sitting back and laughing at all this.
Well, I mean, that's actually kind of like the way
it's Kirby Smart.
It is.
Because Porter Osborne says, Kirby's just sitting back and laughing here. He's right. Georgia had 5 first-rounders. They had 9 players drafted in the first 3 rounds this year. Now, they're not going to put together many more years exactly like this, but you have years like this every once in a while and then consistently have a first-rounder or 2 every year. You are Alabama at that point.
Yeah, well, because Alabama had 6 first-round draft picks in last year's draft.
Right.
And then turned around and made the national title game again,
right.
And might have been one
maybe
Jameson
the 2 best players in the country.
Yeah, and one Jamison Williams blown knee away from probably winning that game, and it was close at the end. So not taking anything away from Georgia. Fantastic job winning the national title. I'm just making a point that Alabama was back and on the cusp of winning a championship again, even after setting the record for most first-round draft picks in a single year, tying Miami's from 2001.
Yep.
So, I don't know, man. The thing that I want to know is, like, at the bottom of this screen here, it says Jimbo Fisher versus Nick Saban. Who you got? And is wildly entertaining as it was to talk about this today and watch the videos and laugh, I feel like they both look kind of stupid.
You got 2 guys making about $9.5–10 million a year, sniping at one another over stuff that both of them do pretty much the same way.
One of which was wearing a $60,000 Rolex.
I see. You knew that. I did.
Yeah.
He can afford it. He's got
no. I know. It's funny to like joke about
a guaranteed contract.
No, I'm not saying he shouldn't. If I were in his position, I would have one too. I'm just saying, as you're like yelling about money and all the things that come along with it, it's just like kind of a funny paradox to me.
Well, yeah, and Nick Saban trying to say, don't give this guy money this way. Like, only give people money in the way that I approve.
Like, why are you the czar of figuring out how people get their money?
Like, you got plenty of money. Now, I've argued and still argue that Nick Saban's actually worth more than Alabama pays him, but he took the salary And it's continued to balloon since he got there. So again, he shouldn't really get to dictate how other people decide to take their money and when they decide to take it. He can try to offer it in different ways. And that's what they're doing. It really, it's funny because all this is competing business models, which
I think we lost Andy there.
I'm still here.
Missed
I'm
you.
here.
I missed you while you were gone.
I switched cameras. That's all.
Okay.
So we got the wider shot now. But no, this is just it's so interesting to me. Now, let's talk about the actual meetings themselves, the who you got, because there's two different kinds of this. There is when their teams play, which Nick Saban has won all but one of those. The one he didn't was last year. But there's also when they meet in person, which will happen in less than 2 weeks in Destin, Florida. They have to sit in the same room together for hours over 2 days. How's that going to go?
Okay, so who do you have in a fist fight?
Yeah.
Jimbo.
2 West Virginia dudes scrapping.
Nick Saban is a very handsome and in shape man for his age.
Mm-hmm.
Jimbo is like a Rottweiler ready to take a swing today. I think
he's so pissed.
During his press conference, he was like, his fists were balled up and you could feel it clenching almost.
You could hear him breathing. Like he was seething with rage.
Well, you want to know the other thing that you have to take into account too, is that like when I first started covering Urban Meyer at Ohio State, Urban Meyer basically had a picture of Nick Saban up in the Ohio State football building, and everything that program did every single day was to beat Alabama and to be Alabama and to reach the mountaintop. And that was in 2014. So 8 years later, Nick Saban is still there. But like, you're telling me, who do you think is hanging up in the A&M building? It's Saban. Beat Alabama, make the SEC championship game, got to beat Alabama on the way to doing it, win a national title, legitimize Texas A&M football. So there is something about the person that you have the target on being condescending towards your effort to beat them. Because when you beat them, you want it to be natural, you want it to be accepted, and you want people to view you as a worthy adversary. And if Nick Saban is being condescending towards the way that A&M is building their program, then it kind of takes away the gratification of what it might be to actually beat them a little bit. Now, it'll be satisfying because Jimbo Fisher probably hates Nick Saban right now, but you want to legitimately win. You want that undisputed victory, and you don't want people to say, if and when you do it, that all Texas A&M did was pay players more and stuff, and I can understand why that would be frustrating too.
So Chris on the YouTube comments asked, why do we think Jimbo feels the need to have a whole press conference to defend himself in Texas A&M? Wouldn't you want to defend yourself if somebody came at you like that? I mean, that's kind of a silly question. Of course he wants to defend himself. Like, why wouldn't he have one? Also, we were highly entertained, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, it's college football, and it's May 19th, and it's the biggest story in sports during the NBA playoffs.
I mean, the coach at one SEC school went completely scorched earth on the greatest coach of all time. He called him a narcissist in a press conference.
Yeah, and then he also said to go look into his past and find all the skeletons in his glass house. Right. I think he said everything that a human being could say that you were not supposed to say. And he said it with such conviction and authoritative voice.
Well, he's worked with the man.
Yeah.
So like I'd be curious to see what Saban says next. And I don't know when he's scheduled to talk again, or if he's got any events that he's going to do. I will be in Destin when he gets there, and he usually talks that day. That'll be crazy. Oh, by the way, that room we just talked about, where they will have to be in the same room together with these other people. Think about the other people who are also in that room. Lane Kiffin, who's had plenty to say about all this.
You saw his tweet too, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. Mike Leach will be in that room. Brian Kelly will be in that room.
How much money do you think that they could charge for a pay-per-view of just a live stream of what's
I
going
would
on?
pay at least $100. At least.
Oh, I'd pay more than that.
Oh, it would be amazing. I think about all like who would be the most amused? Like, do you think Shane Beamer and Sam Pittman would just be sitting together laughing? Like, can you believe we're in this?
Mark Stoops might be off to the side chuckling a little bit.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think of what's Eli Drinkwitz's situation right now?
Oh, Eli Drinkwitz is class clowning the whole thing. Like, he's shooting spitballs at everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to go down the list and you tell me what you think they're going to do.
All right.
Brian Harsin, is he just like, I'm
Brian
happy to
Harsin
be
is
here
saying,
still?
thank God no one is paying attention to me right now.
Okay. Mike Leach, is he off like chasing a squirrel somewhere?
Mike Leach is going to get into an argument about antitrust law, and they're going to be like, Mike, we were talking about scheduling.
Yeah.
So
Shane Beamer.
Shane's just going to be completely amused by all this. He knows when to keep his mouth shut, and this will be that time. The one I'm curious about is Kirby, because
no, you're missing a good one. I think Josh Heupel will be like the scene in Dumb and Dumber when Lloyd throws the salt shaker and it hits, and then Josh Heupel's going to be like, he's going to close it and he's going like this with his fingers. No, he's going to point it. He's just going to point at A&M. No. like he has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I what are you talking about? Please focus your attention on Jimbo Fisher.
And then
look at me.
And then after Nick Saban walks out of the room, Heupel will look at him and goes, "You really wussed out, man." Like after he's like, Sam Pittman, I think will be amused. Lane Kiffin, man, I don't even know what Lane Kiffin's role is. Oh no, he's standing behind Nick Saban, going, "Yeah, Nick."
See, here's the thing with Lane. Lane is very funny, sharp, acerbic on Twitter, but in person, I don't know that because he's not really an extrovert in person. So I don't know that he is really taking part in this. I think he's also sitting back and soaking it in.
No, he's standing behind Nick Saban going,
"You think so?"
After everything.
You tell him, Steve Dave.
Yeah, he doesn't say any of it, but he goes, "Yeah," because that's kind of what he's doing on Twitter, because he's been implying NIL stuff since the beginning of time,
right?
And every single time anybody points at, he retweeted the thing about Texas A&M's recruiting classes today.
Yes, from just some random guy.
Some random guy that had
some random guy who's like,
incorrect
"This is not my information." Yeah. I just
Nor
found
is it
it
right.
from another random guy.
Nor is it correct. It doesn't matter. That's funny. Okay, who am I forgetting?
Billy Napier is just drinking a coffee. Like,
yeah, Billy Napier's like, God, things are so much different here.
But he's also taking notes.
No,
he's like,
yeah, Billy Napier is the freshman who just got dropped off at high school for his first day of high school. Brian Kelly is probably changing his accent back to Midwestern because he doesn't want anything to do with it.
No, man, Brian Kelly's going to get in an argument with somebody about some of this.
Yeah,
because he can't help himself.
So you're saying he's going to stick with the Southern accent?
No. I think he'll have his own. It won't be the Joey Molinaro call where he comes in with the plantation owner accent that he does for Brian Kelly. It will be maybe he goes back to his native Boston accent and be like, "Hey guys, we're gonna pack our car next to the bar and we'll get this straightened out." How about Kirby Smart though? Like, at what point does everybody just turn and look at him and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was polishing this national championship ring. I didn't hear any of this."
He's playing words with friends. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
I mean, this will be the gift that keeps on giving, because do you kind of have to pick sides? Like, most of these guys have worked together at some point.
I don't know that I have to pick sides.
Not you, them.
Oh, you mean in the room? In the room
within the SEC, because look, the SEC is probably going to work on policy, trying to come up. The best way to actually have any rules and be able to enforce them is kind of do it at the conference level at this point. So now now you're going to have factions, and that's going to get real interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing about it is that they were arguing about semantics, and I don't think anybody's right or wrong. They were saying mean things about each other, and they're both kind of engaging in it in their own ways.
Right. Jimbo's mad because Nick Saban attacked him, and Nick Saban's mad because he sees a threat to his empire. And listen, this is the soap opera that I want from the Southeastern Conference.
This is the best sport in the world.
It is the best sport in the universe.
It's like, I don't know anything about wrestling. I've never gotten into it, but I kind of feel like college football comes with the drama of wrestling, except the games aren't rigged.
Name me a better press conference. Is it Jim
I can't.
Mora playoffs? That was good. That was off the cuff.
My favorite press conference.
Sorta.
My favorite press conference in the entire world. I'm trying to find it. What year it was? Jim Calhoun, when they asked him about Ryan
not a dime
Gomes.
back.
Yeah,
Not a dime back.
yeah,
That was a great one.
yeah. When yeah.
How about when Chaney ran in and tried to choke John Calipari?
Didn't he say "I'll kill you"?
Yes, he did. When Chaney was at Temple and Calipari was at UMass.
This was a literal death threat.
Like, came in and tried to choke him.
That's funny because the SID, if I'm not at Ohio State, that I got to know very well during my time there, I think was the Temple SID when that happened.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, Caleb on YouTube. I'm a man, I'm 40. How could we forget?
Yeah, I'm a man, I'm 40. Like, those ones are funny, but like, I also understand, like, there's a difference between outbursts and frustration and what happened today. This, I think, is kind of in a league of its own in terms of somebody calling a press conference to tear down another coach. Like, the only reason why the press conference was called was to respond to another comment and to flamethrow the other person.
Yes.
Well, where all these other press conferences, something happened in the midst of it that caused a meltdown or caused a funny interaction.
And we're still waiting on Dion here, by the way. Like, that's the other piece of this. Like, what's Dion going to say?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Like, when
I mean, I think the thing that Travis Hunter tweeted was probably more powerful than anything Dion could say.
that's true. Maybe that was it. How crazy is it that Deion Sanders is the biggest grown-up of these guys here?
I mean, he did tweet. He said, "I'm going to address this tomorrow," and then he addressed it right then in his tweet. So I don't know what's left to be said.
Well, he also had some James Brown playing behind it.
Also,
Big payback.
Again, I don't know, and I'm ignorant to this because I've haven't spent much time in Mississippi or whatever, but Jackson State, from what I understand, has a pretty passionate following, right?
They do, yes.
But I don't know if the passionate following is enough to get that money together.
No.
That seems like a fairy tale.
Well,
like
that would be a Dion deal because Dion is capable of getting that kind of money together. And this is why we've had this conversation on the podcast before, that in this environment, Dion at a Power 5 school could be really interesting.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So but we talked about the meetings in Destin. What happens at the next Aflac commercial shoot?
That's funny. I saw the pictures of them together.
I mean, the Ducks going to be like, quack word. I had to, I'm sorry. There was no other choice.
Yeah.
What is the Ducks supposed to do when these two won't even talk to each other?
Well, Aflac is about insuring you for injuries related to work, right? Like, that's one of the policies they're always selling.
Supplemental insurance. So
supplemental insurance.
If you get hurt and you can't work, it's to help you.
And it doesn't hurt to miss work.
Defray your costs. Yeah, exactly.
So these are occupational hazards.
Wow.
What I think we should do is
circle.
remove Dion from the commercial.
Okay.
Insert Jimbo.
And just let him fight?
Let him fight. And whoever gets beaten up gets
Uses
an
Aflac
policy, and it doesn't hurt to miss work. Genius.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Andy Staples Show, brought to you by Aflac, which has not paid us a penny for this ad. Aflac will be invoicing you at some time soon. Ari, this has been a pleasure. We might be back when Dion says something, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not leaving the house today, it looks like. So,
greatest sport ever. We'll talk to you soon.